All right, welcome back to First and Short, your first place to get short bits of college football news and analysis. Today is Sunday, October 12th. We just wrapped up a crazy week 7. This podcast is hosted by my co-host Aaron and myself, Mashfik. We had a great week 7, but before we get into that, obviously we want you guys to subscribe. We want you guys to follow us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, here on YouTube. Our channel's been growing a lot, and we appreciate every one of you for watching. If we can get you to subscribe, that would be cherry on top. So, Aaron, initial thoughts before we get into it. What kind of weekend did we just see right there?
Yeah, man. If I could describe this weekend in, one or two words, it would be absolutely wrong. We just,
we got cooked. We got cooked. Well,
Exactly.
we'll talk about that for sure.
Yep.
I was at Aaron's house yesterday. We were watching games all day, and well, good thing we didn't bet that much money because we would have been broke right now. Anyway, so let's get into it. We'll talk about the biggest winners and losers of the weekend. We made picks earlier last week. We're going to talk about how we did on those. We want to be completely, open and transparent with you guys. Our credibility is in the toilet, by the way. But we're going to talk a little bit about the officiating in the SEC. The UGA Auburn game, it displayed a lot of malarkey. Let's just put it that way. And we're going to do a deep dive actually into the Alabama versus Missouri game. So lots on the plate. Let's go ahead and get started. Aaron, we watched a lot of football yesterday. Who are the biggest losers to you?
Sure. So we have a couple. First things first, Penn State. They went down yesterday against Northwestern. This is like their third consecutive loss. I've been waiting to say this since yesterday. Happy Valley is not so happy right now.
Oh, depressing
Yeah.
Valley.
Yep, depressing Valley, exactly. Go ahead.
We keep saying like Penn State's in a position to like get back right, and it's something like we've been saying. We were saying that about like UCLA earlier in the year, and they just can't get back right. I don't know. We'll talk about that later, but keep going.
Yep. Next on the list, we had number 6 Oklahoma falling to Texas in the Red River rivalry. And a pretty concise win. I mean, they lost 23-6 against, a struggling Arch Manning. I mean, he didn't look like he struggled that much yesterday. They put up 23 points. Tough one for a team that was undefeated.
I think we have a third biggest loser, and that's going to be me because I didn't even go 500 on my picks from last week. I think I went 6 for 13 or something like that. And we went 0-2 on my underdog picks. So just overall, I have no idea what's going on in the league, basically. I did want to talk a little bit more about Penn State, though. Obviously, Drew Aller is out. He got hurt. He's out for the rest of the season. Could be a business decision. I mean, I don't think I heard exactly what's wrong with him, but I really just want to get into like the team psychology and the morale right now because yes, you lose the one game to Oregon, like at home at night. Like, fine, that's a quality win. Oregon's one of the best teams in the league. But then you lose to UCLA, who before that game had not led a single second in their previous games, and you lose to that. Okay, I can see that being a little frustrating. But now you lose to Northwestern, who is perennially the worst team in the Big Ten.
Yep.
And I don't know, Aaron. Like that is such a deep, dark place. Like you said, a dark valley that they're probably in right now.
Yeah, I'm sure they're feeling some imposter syndrome, right? I mean, they were once the preseason AP ranked number 2 team in the nation. A lot of people's favorites to get over that hump and win the national
Win the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And now they're here. So my question to you is, if you're in James Franklin's shoes right now, right? How do you approach this? I mean, you have a fan base that was pretty much really, really eager to, get to that next level and get to a national championship caliber team since you've arrived. He's been there for a decent amount of years now. And basically, you wet the bed mid-season, right? You're in a groove. You're on a win streak. You're maintaining your level of top 10 ranking, and all of a sudden you drop 3 straight games.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your message to your team at this point right now if you're in James Franklin's shoes?
Yeah, it's tough because like last year they're in the they're in the top four,
Mhm.
and so from there you feel like you only have to make like small changes to get to where you need to go. And I don't know what those decisions were. Obviously, one of the biggest ones was getting Jim Knowles from Ohio State. That seemed like a home run, right? Um, if I'm James Franklin, I'm going to the team. Honestly, I'm just going to the team and I'm giving them the boilerplate, like, hey guys, one play at a time, one game at a time. The season's not over, blah blah blah. The other coaching football stuff, I have no knowledge of, so I'll leave it to him to take care of that. But from an operational kind of standpoint, I have to look at this long term, right? Like salvage what you can from this season. I don't know if his job is on the line. I don't know what's going on the internal, workings at Penn State, but I'm thinking, how do I salvage this season and how can I leverage that for future seasons? Like, I don't want to lose any recruits. I don't want to lose any donors or money that's supposed to like help the infrastructure of the program. There's obviously a couple of decisions that were made internally that led to this point from last season to here. Okay, fine. Let's go back and fix those decisions. Don't try to sell some idea of a national championship or bust idea to your team or your program. Work on the fundamentals and get to a point where an 0-3 slide doesn't happen. Like that's not something we see with Ohio State. That's not something we see with Alabama most years or Texas most years. But get to that point. It's kind of like that. Professionals do things so much that it's not that they don't mess, or what is it? They can't get it right, but they just don't mess up. That get to that point and then worry about what your goals should be. So yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, pretty straightforward, blunt messaging to the team. If I were in his shoes, I would only add one more point. Looking on the horizon, you still have Indiana and Ohio State on your schedule this year. Be the boogeyman. Be the
Yeah.
team that
Ruin their season.
ruin other people's seasons, right? I mean, that's how you finish the season with pride, no matter where you're at in the rankings, in your record, what the outcome is. Worry about that next game, like you said, and worry about absolutely destroying any team that you can, right?
That'll help get some brownie points at the end of the season, and like I said, maybe help salvage the season.
Exactly, exactly. But it'll be interesting. More to come. We'll see what happens to Penn State for the rest of the year. But a college football playoff berth seems very unlikely at the moment.
Yeah. Who are the biggest winners this weekend, you think?
Sure, sure. So we got number 7 Indiana. They won against Oregon on the road. Like wow, they really probably shocked a lot of fan bases and analysts over the weekend.
Yeah, including us.
Yep, yep. Just one of those ones we got wrong, but hey, that's football sometimes.
Yeah.
Next, you got UCLA. Hey, one more win and you can call it a streak, man. These guys are on a roll now. They won 38-13 against Michigan State. Yeah,
With the new coach.
with the new coach.
New offensive coordinators. Things are rolling.
Yep, things are rolling. I got USC. They won 31-13 against ranked number 15 Michigan this weekend. That was a pretty solid win. Lincoln Riley, he only has one loss this year, so I mean, maybe we see them slipping back into the top 25 this week.
Yeah. After a win like that against Michigan, yeah.
Yeah. So pretty impressive, pretty impressive. And then the last one I have on my list, we have Colorado. They have a ranked win against number 22 Iowa State. That is their first Big 12 win of the season. Woo! Congrats, Coach Prime.
Yeah.
You finally got that conference win. Again, still trying to see where this team is, where they're going to go. I feel like we say this every year with Colorado. They have a lot of promise. They just show so much inconsistency week to week in their conference play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a guy with no toes and no bladder, that's a pretty good win, I would say. So I want to talk about Indiana real quick, right? Like, how have they been able to build a program with the transfer portal and NIL mechanics so fast? Like, most teams, they do it, they're 1 year thing, and then there's a drop off. We are seeing continuous improvement with Indiana. Why I mean, I guess I should be asking myself this, but I'll ask you, Aaron. Why were we so wrong about them this year? Why did we? What have they been able to do so well, and why has no one expected this team to be repeating or even improving results from last season?
Mm. I'm gonna point it, to one person in general, the head coach, Kurt Signetti, right? He seems to be a truly data-driven coach for this Indiana team. Like you said, no one could have predicted how well they were going to do last year. They were a team that had a college football playoff appearance, and they only had losses to two teams, and both of those teams were in the national championship last year. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, pretty impressive. If I had to
Maybe
say,
that hid the true results. Like, okay, if I'm gonna lose to those two guys, everyone thinks I'm booty, but maybe not.
maybe not, right? Um, you know, Indiana could have easily been seen as just, like you said, that 1 year dark horse last year who had the 1 year shine, and they're going to return back into the depths of Big Ten mediocrity, right? But I think this offseason, Signetti, he took it a step further. He really sought to improve upon his newly rising team, right? With transfer portal players, Fernando Mendoza from Cal, and, running back Roman Hemby from Maryland. This team, they really improved on, I guess you could call it, one of their weaknesses or areas to improve upon. They've become the seventh best offense in total yards this year, averaging about 502 yards a game, compared to last season where they were ranked 34 in the nation, averaging only about 426.4 yards per game. So immediately they saw the weakness. They saw, where they needed to improve upon because the defense is there. I think they were ranked a number two defense in terms
Right, they
of
were pretty
yards
high.
allowed
Yep.
per game.
Mm-hmm.
They're still pretty high this year. Offense is where they needed impacts, and they got these two players. So how do these players impact that change? Mendoza, he's been absolutely electric. He's been a super efficient passer, and we see that week in, week out. I think he still only has, well, barring what just happened this weekend, he came into the game, I think, 17 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So absolutely efficient. And then Roman Hemby, he's a transfer from Maryland. He was this weekend's leading rusher, and they really leaned on him heavily in the fourth quarter. I think they were using him to, eat the clock up and wind the clock down as they had the lead.
Yep.
And he finished the game with, again, being the leading rusher and having 2 rushing touchdowns. Um, to me, this just proves, more and more how Saban is the GOAT. All of his proteges just come out of that system, and they continuously have that same grit of being better than just good, right? They're trying to be
Yeah.
the best. They're trying to build dynasties. And it seems like every single, protege has that same mentality, whatever school they go to.
Yeah. Good.
Mm.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Mm.
Let's in the name of full disclosure, let's see how we did with the rest of our picks. Like I said, I went 6 for 13. Aaron, I think you went 8 for 13. But Ohio State at Illinois, they were able to get that dub pretty easily, 34-16. We both picked Ohio State for that one.
Nice.
Alabama, number 8 Alabama at number 14 Missouri. We had a split decision here, but I was almost right. Alabama won 27-24. We're going to do a deep dive on this one a little bit later. Virginia Tech at number 13, Georgia Tech, the battle of the nerds. Georgia Tech won 35-20. Georgia Tech is now in the lead in the ACC alongside UVA and Duke. Haynes King, this game he had another 14 carries, 213 very efficient yards through the air. I just found this out. He is the 5th in the ACC in rush yards amongst all players, amongst all running backs, amongst all people who get the rock and tote it. That's pretty impressive and pretty dangerous, but it's working for him. So best of luck. Arkansas at number 12, Tennessee. We both picked Tennessee here. They escaped with a win in Neyland. Tennessee did. Running back Deshaun Bishop, he had a career high 146 yards, and he was able to help Tennessee, get a late touchdown or get a touchdown and hold off a late rally by Arkansas. Bobby Petrino really picked up this team by the bootstraps and has them ready to play, in my opinion. He was wearing those shades the whole game. That was funny to me.
Yeah. Even when it got really dark out there. But yeah, like
Hey,
you said, he's picked them up. Hey, be on the lookout for them. That they could make some noise in conference play for the
yeah.
remainder of the year.
Yeah. Florida went up to number 5 Texas A&M after beating the real Texas last week, but different results this time around. Texas A&M 34, Florida 17. Aggies still undefeated, continues their run by holding Florida to just 1 of 11 on third down. Their defense was really suffocating. Great performance. Marcel Reed had an okay game. The defense was able to really shut down Florida. They forced DJ Lagway to throw a lot, but he was very inefficient through the air. And I think he had negative rushing yards as well. Kansas went up to number 9 Texas Tech. Red Raiders won the game 42-17. The ground game, they had 372 rushing yards on the ground. Just complete dominant performance there. Still favorites to win the Big 12. South Carolina at number 11 LSU. That was the game we had on alongside the Georgia game. But LSU 20, South Carolina 10. LSU's offense didn't look great, but they had 2 red zone turnovers. But LSU's defense, we've been hearing about them all year. They came up clutch. They had 5 total sacks on Lenora Sellers. So that was fun to watch for sure. Number 18. Oh, we were wrong on that one, by the way. We both picked South Carolina to get the upset. And number 18, BYU at Arizona. We were a split decision here as well. Aaron, you picked BYU. I picked the wrong team, Arizona. But it went to 2 overtimes. Arizona almost got it done. But true freshman Bear Bachmeier, he runs it in for a 7-yard touchdown in second overtime. This guy is legit. Excited to see him grow into the future. So that's kind of how we did on our picks. Yeah, Aaron, we were watching the UGA Auburn game as well in the evening. What was like? I know the 2-minute warning lasted like an hour. Like, what was going on in that game?
Yeah. So like you said, that there was 2 minutes left in the first half, and it spread across a span of, I think they clocked us at 31 minutes exactly, right? This was due to an egregious amount of momentum stops and reviews by the officiating staff of the game, right? Was all this stoppage valid? That's the question at hand. You know, depending on which side of the fan bases you were on, you could say it was, or you could say, we got robbed, right?
Yeah.
If you're on the Auburn side, you saw, head coach Hugh Freeze and the athletic director John Cohen giving officials a real piece of their mind at walking into the locker room at halftime. There were so many plays that were so controversial during this game. The first one I want to talk about is the tush push, right? Auburn's tush push. They're up 10-0, having a chance to make the game 17-0 on the 1-yard line, and the ball's punched out. They ruled a fumble, but they stopped the play at the 1-yard line when the Georgia defender is like literally running into the end zone for a scoop of score.
Yeah, he never touched the ground. They didn't call it dead. So you can't have it both ways. Either call it a touchdown or call it a UGA scoop and score. It can't be what the end result was, right?
Exactly. And so I'm so accustomed to officiating crews. If a fumble does happen, you let it play out, and then you go back to the review, and you make the objective evidence call. But it was so weird to see them mark it as a fumble and not acknowledge there's a player running down the sideline, and I don't know if I heard a whistle being blown, to be honest.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so Georgia, they get the ball now. It's 10-0 still, but instead of Auburn having the ball that close in the end zone, Georgia's driving down the field, and there are some controversial plays. You had the targeting play by the safety. I think it was Kayan Lee. That play was one of the plays that was initially being reviewed because of a pass completion.
Right. Yep. I think it was Kobe Young on the side. They were checking his toes, but then they were like, "Oh wait, targeting."
Exactly. And then you had the roughing the passer, Morris Williams. He was about to sack Gunnar Stockton, and then they said, "Wait a minute." The way he
pulled him down. He pulled him down. Yeah.
Exactly. And then after the second half, you have the Kirby Smart controversial call where he's saying, "No, I'm clapping my hands. I'm clapping my hands." They initially called timeout, and then they say, "Oh wait, no, I'm clapping my hands." He's like, "Okay, Georgia's not charged with the timeout."
So I actually saw some more on that on social media, and they did a little bit more investigative work, a lot more than the commentators were doing, obviously. But he did call a timeout, but he was saying that Auburn was clapping their hands, which they're not allowed to do on defense, to try and get the
Oh,
offense to
to
go
Georgia.
false start. So there, because of what we were seeing, all of this, and what Greg McElroy and what the other guy was saying on the as the commentators, it kind of like confused a lot of people. So that's kind of what's going on. Yeah,
Fair, fair, fair. You
just want
know,
to be fair and
nonetheless,
unbiased.
nonetheless, right? The list can go on and on of all the stoppage we saw and all the penalties we saw yesterday. I think there was a total of 17 penalties that added that significant delay. Um, it makes you wonder, what kind of conversations went on while they were reviewing and talking to the guys up in the booth. Again, the insight that we saw in the ACC's matchup of Virginia and Florida State was, uncanny, right? I mean, maybe the SEC should do this in one of their big games when every call matters like that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would love it, but knowing the SEC as much as we do, we doubt that's going to happen, right? It makes for good television, in my opinion. So why not, do it? But maybe they're trying to protect the sanctity of refereeing. I don't know, but it is nice to be able to watch like those ACC games and they let us know what's going on, like from a knowledge perspective, right? But looking at the referees, they saw what kind of powdered keg of a stadium that they were in at that time. Maybe they felt like, oh, maybe we didn't get the right play on the whole fumble thing, and so now they're trying to be extra careful, which is what led to that those last 2 minutes to take so long. I don't know, but yeah, it's crazy to see the discrepancy between how the ACC approaches refereeing and officiating, and SEC sticking to whatever black box that they got going on.
Yep. Nonetheless, Georgia was able to get out of there with a 20-10 win. You could say the momentum shifter was the tush push because you
For
saw the
sure. The
the
yardage.
dramatic
Yep.
yardage. And sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles in terms of winning a game.
Yep.
Yeah.
So sounds good. We will move on to one of our deep, or we will move on to our deep dive of Alabama and Missouri. So number
Mhm.
8, Alabama, they roll into Columbia, Missouri to play the number 14 Missouri Tigers, and one of the best defenses in the nation with Missouri. They do what needed to be done to escape with the win, 27-24. It didn't look that close at some points of the game, but uh, they were able to get that done anyway. They trailed after Mizzou scored on their first drive with a touchdown, and then Alabama took the lead and didn't look back after that. This game had a lot going on. This game featured another big boy play from Caden Proctor. This time he took a direct snap and he almost rushed it in for a touchdown. This game included also a lot of fourth down conversions from Alabama's side. They had 2 crucial fourth down conversions in the fourth quarter on the same drive. They went 3 for 3 on fourth down all game, which seems to be a reoccurring thing that they're able to do. Just like keep moving the chains. They were able to do that against Georgia. They've been able to do that against Vanderbilt. They've been able to do that here against Missouri. One of those fourth down conversions on one of their last drives was a pass to Brooks for 29 yards on fourth down, and one was the pass to Daniel Hill for a touchdown. So I want to highlight Ty Simpson, man. He had 200 yards and 3 touchdowns yesterday against a defense that we've been praising all week for being top 5 in multiple categories. Aaron, what is Ty Simpson made of? What makes him so special, and what makes him so clutch in these situations?
Sure, sure. So, week in, week out, I see that, aside from the Florida State game, you really cannot take this guy's confidence away. We are starting to see, more teams get pressure on Ty Simpson, see him get touched a little bit more. He got sacked 4 times this game. But although he had those 4 sacks, I still have yet to see him make an absolutely terrible pass that can result into, just an outright pick, right? Like he's so consistent, and I'm gonna say it again, like I said, the prior 2 weeks. He's a field manager you're not going to lose the game because of what's going on in his hands. I think there was a play, like you said, there was a third or fourth down conversion where he threw a dot to either Jeremy Bernard or Horton. It was like a post corner route, right?
Was it a touchdown? I think it was to Horton. Or
It
no?
was, I think it was just a long conversion
Okay,
that got them in the red zone.
gotcha.
But he had been basically roughed up all game. The game was close. Um, just plays like that show that he's truly a guy that's not worried about what happened a series ago or a play ago. He's worried about executing right now, and I think that's what makes him so clutch. He wants to
Nice.
execute and be perfect every play, and that's why their third down conversion rates are so high, and that's why even when they go for it on fourth down, they're efficient. It's because of
Yeah.
him keeping his composure in every play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, last episode I thought Missouri was going to win, which they almost did, but whatever. One of the keys of the game that I mentioned for Missouri to be able to win this game was to be able to control the clock, time of possession, and keep Alabama's explosive offense off of the field. Keep using Ahmad Hardy, run that clock down. I said that, and I'm pretty sure Kalen DeBoer, watches this show because he took that exact advice, and that's exactly what he did to Missouri. They held the ball for 38 minutes compared to Missouri's 21. Alabama had a drive to end the third quarter that ended with a field goal, but it took 9 minutes off the clock. That's crazy. So that's, kind of on the offensive side of what Alabama was able to do so well this game and get the win. Aaron, what did Alabama do well on defense? What were they able to do on that side of the ball to help the offense win the game?
Sure, sure. So aside from, staying off the field, they performed well against, Missouri star running back Ahmad Hardy. They held the nation's leading rusher to just 52 yards on 12 carries. Um, while Missouri's total rushing yards were still higher than Alabama's overall, neutralizing their top threat and keeping the Tigers, well under their season average was a key to their defensive win. Um, they made Bo Perbilla, rush it himself and try to win the yards through the air, which eventually, caused two touchdowns, but it also led to two interceptions. One question I have for you. So I know you
Mm-hmm.
picked Missouri to win this game. They only lost by 3, and they were driving on that last play to maybe win or send the game in overtime. What did Missouri do to stay in the game so late?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about their defense. I think the defense came to play, honestly. They fell a little short, obviously struggled against the passing game at times, but they were able to get 4 sacks, which I going back to the Florida State game, maybe that happened, but we haven't seen that happen too much. They were able to get 4 sacks on Ty Simpson, made him operate under duress for large parts of the game. But again, back to his credit, and as you mentioned, he didn't care about the last play. He only cared about the one that they were in right then. Their run defense was solid. Now we know Alabama's running game hasn't been too great this year. Jam Miller obviously has added some depth and some energy there, but they kept Alabama's rushing attack to only 2.9 yards a carry, and they were able to get a strip sack on Ty Simpson and force a punt in the second half to keep the Tigers in the game. But ultimately, letting Alabama go 6 for 15 on third down and 3 for 3 on fourth is that's just gonna kill you every time. So yeah, that was kind of the tail of the tape there. Looking forward to both of these teams. Alabama, now they're tied for first in the SEC with Ole Miss and Texas A&M. Third Saturday in October is coming up next weekend, so get your cigars ready. Joey Aguilar and Josh Heupler is coming down to Tuscaloosa. That's going to be a great night game next week. Very excited for that one. Missouri, what's ahead for them? They head to Auburn. Great spot to get back right. You're what, 5-1? Get back right after that debacle that Auburn just went through. That could be a win for you. So yeah, that's what's ahead for both of these teams. But yeah.
All righty. Well, yeah, that pretty much wraps up our show for today. We will see you guys Thursday to discuss some more of the major items that we're going to talk about in week 8. We got UGA Ole Miss in a heavyweight battle. We got Georgia Tech and Duke. They're competing to stay in that number 1 spot in the ACC. And we have Notre Dame, who's going to play USC. Sounds like another separation week to me. We're excited to see what's going to happen. That's all that we have for today. Thank you for watching First and Short, guys.
Thank you very much. See you next time.